You are now listening to the Lone Wolf
The Lone Wolf Podcast.
So today, earlier, I went on a hike with my dog along the shores of the Mississippi River here in Alton, Illinois. I just love it, man. It was such a beautiful day. It was like 75 or 80. Nice breeze off the river. Buddy gets to play fetch. But, you know, I just decided when I was on my hike to listen to Levi Sifra's albums. And if you don't know who Levi Sifra, he's like a... Well, actually, most people are actually familiar with him with rap samples. So the most notable one is he did a song called I Got the ... And there was a part of it that was sampled for the beat for My Name Is by Eminem, or back then he was Slim Shady. And then there was another song off Kanye's album Graduation, which statistically speaking, I think is like his highest selling album. But it's off a song that wasn't a hit on there called I Wonder. And they sample Levi Sifra's song, My Song, which is a beautiful song. But he's like, well, first of all, he's a British singer, but he's like a mix of folk, funk, and singer-songwriter, like piano in his sound. But yeah, I put on his album, and I was just thinking, like, man, like, I really want to buy his album, which brings me to this point. I don't really identify myself as a hipster. I like to identify myself as Michael Wolff, but I'm glad that hipsters are making, like, listening to albums cool again, and they're doing it usually with vinyls, which I just think I'm half and half. Half of me understands why people don't listen to albums anymore. There's so much music out there that you just want to kind of listen to a song here and a song there, but there's certain albums and certain artists, they put their heart and soul, and it's such an amazing album, and it's just getting looked over because people don't want to listen to albums anymore. And I think with LPs, records, or vinyls, whatever you want to call them, there's an intentionality behind it that you want to invest in this album, and when you put it on the turntable, that's pretty much what you're gonna do. You're gonna let the record find the grooves and play the album, and what happens is you actually get the context of where the artist was coming from with the album. And that's one of the things I'm glad the hipsters are doing, or the hipsters started rather. But yeah, while I was out there just hiking, or rather walking down the shoreline of the Mississippi with Buddy, it occurred to me that Levi would fit perfectly in like a Wes Anderson film, or any film that was reaching for an idyllic, nostalgic feel to their scene. Or if you just want good music for a walk or like a road trip, like he's good for that. So if you have no idea who Wes Anderson is, or don't care to watch any of his amazing films, I actually have friends whose names I won't mention that says he makes some of the worst films they've ever seen. However, I think they are sadly mistaken. In my opinion, he is a national treasure. I just hope he doesn't come out... I just hope news doesn't come out against him claiming he's a pedophile or an abuser like a lot of Holly weirders. But I think if he had done stuff like that, it'd be out by now. Plus, he just seems too awkward to be a womanizer anyways. Also, Demi Lovato overdosed on heroin, but was found in time to be rushed to the hospital, and now is awake and stable. Now, I'm not demonizing her for using drugs. In fact, I wish her the best on her road to sobriety and recovery. But the people out there that idolize celebrities and idolize fame need to ponder about fame when they hear stories like this. This isn't uncommon at all. This whole idea that their lives are absolutely amazing and that they can do no wrong is nonsense. These are flawed people like you and I, just with a bigger reach. Be yourself. Do not chase false idols. And now on to my He-Man political woman-hating club. Hillary complains of being exhausted for the second time in 8 days while wearing what looks like a robe for like a patient in the hospital at NYC's OZY Fest. She lamented on how exhausting it could be to protest, saying, you know, it's kind of exhausting to be part of protesting and marching and demonstrating and resisting, but we cannot stop. So here's my thought. Maybe instead of living in your fantasy world, Mrs. Bill Clinton, where you are president, maybe you can accept the fact that no one wants your lying, traitorous, murderous ass as president. And when you accept that, maybe you can take a break and go somewhere peaceful and serene in the mountains with all the money you got from our uranium and the Clinton Foundation And when you get there, get some rest so that you won't be exhausted anymore. Sound good? Oh yeah, and while you're there, maybe contemplate enjoying the rest of your life for once. Whatever life you have left, that is, since it seems your health is deteriorating more and more. Probably because all the evil you've done is finally taking its toll on your mortal body. Another female politician, Pocahontas Warren, aka Elizabeth Warren, is adamant on the fact that she can defeat Trump. In this article, which has her fist in black and white, and it looks to me very much like a symbol for a communist organization. Hey, Lizzie. If Hillary didn't win, you don't stand a chance. Hillary had all the establishment plus the FBI on her side and still lost, okay? And even though I can't stand Hillary, at least she can articulate well and doesn't come off as a complete idiot. And at least she doesn't try to virtue signal about being Native American, then refuse to show any proof that she is. And I also don't recall Hillary calling the tax cuts that positively affected 90% of American wage workers crumbs. And even though Hillary wanted to raise taxes on the middle class, which is getting better, but was almost obsolete at the time, I don't recall her saying she wants a 50% tax rate, like Elizabeth Warren just said. Here's a quote of the Q&A. Look, there was a time in a very prosperous America, an America that was growing a middle class, an America in which working families were doing better generation after generation after generation, where the top marginal rate was well above 50%. Interviewer says 90%. She says, that's exactly right. But for me, the heart of the question is that you've got to ask, what constitutes a fair share in this economy? It depends in part on what the economy is. So, Lizzie, you want to know what people do when they get taxed that much? They leave. And when they leave, they take their money and their resources with them, thus leaving the working class American on their asses without jobs yet again. And since I just said jobs, Pocahontas also agreed with Ocasio-Cortez's idiotic statement of saying that unemployment is low because everyone has 2 jobs. That's not how that works, okay? Here's a quick little snippet from YouTube on how unemployment is measured.
Welcome to the Noble Review session for students of AP Macroeconomics. Today we're going to look at an economy's unemployment rate and how to calculate it. The unemployment rate is equal to the number of people unemployed divided by the number of people in the labor force times 100.
But back to Warren. Let's be honest. You don't want to raise the taxes to help the people. You want to raise them to increase your profits and to help out all your crooked friends in the process. Anyone with a brain understands higher taxes isn't better, and no matter how well you articulate that, people are going to still be able to tell it's a turd that's been painted gold. Look, and I know this sounds like I'm anti-woman. Trust me, I'm not. I absolutely love my mom. I love my sister. Some of my favorite people in my life are female. So let's just get that out of the way. But yet another thing that I found actually pretty funny is about a video that shows Nancy Pelosi kind of has like a twitch with her face whenever she says the word Constitution. But when I watched that video, it just reminded me of how focused she is on her hatred for Trump and the alleged Russia collusion, that she fails to actually better the shithole city in which she represents. I mean, not only is the cost of living insufferable for 99.9% of the citizens in San Francisco, but the city has one of, if not the worst homeless population and the worst public defecation problems. It's gotten so bad now to where even the tourists aren't willing to come. Nancy, fix your own backyard before you try and fix the world. Now, this one deals with another country's politics, but it's the last one talking about a female leader in the world. Germany, the country that has abandoned its national identity and given its people over to a multicultural hellhole, has seen a sharp rise in anti-government extremists. I know Germany has had a tainted past, but that's past. You can't abandon your people for the sake of political correctness, or else you get what you got now, which is grooming gangs, drastic increase in violence, no-go zones, etc., etc. If this surprises Germany's officials, it shouldn't. This has happened before in their past, where the establishment failed and a rise in an extremist group comes into prominence. You think that after being destroyed twice and rebuilding their country and society that they'd know better than to let an idiot like Angela Merkel, into power. But I guess not. Oh well, just like a lot of the other European countries, it was nice knowing you. I know it seems like I'm negative, but it just kind of juicy to talk about the stuff. But I actually do want to end this podcast on a positive note. And what better way than talk about how loving dogs are? In an article from Sarah Napton from the UK Telegraph, should chase the dogs to go out of their way to help upset owners. The participants were 34 dogs of various breeds and sizes and their owners. Individual owners were positioned behind a clear door held closed with magnets, allowing their dog to see and hear them. The owners were then asked to either hum "Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star" or cry. The researchers were looking to see if the dogs would open the door more often when their owners were crying. Although this didn't turn out to be the case, they found that the dogs who did open the door when their owner was crying opened it 3 times faster than dogs whose owners were humming. Yet another example of how dogs are superior pets than cats. They always were and always will be. Alrighty, that concludes episode 24. I want to thank you so much. And like I say on all the podcasts before this, check us out on Facebook at Lone Wolf Productions. That's LONEWOOFF Productions. And for those Android users, non-iPhone users, etc., or if you just like listening to podcasts on Spotify, the Lone Wolf Podcast is on Spotify as well. But yeah, that's it, and I will see you on episode 25. Thanks so much.
When I was back there in seminary school, there was a person there who put forth the proposition that you can petition the Lord with prayer. Petition the Lord with prayer. Petition the Lord with prayer. You cannot petition the Lord with prayer. Can you give me sanctuary? I must find a place to hide, a place for me to hide. Can you find me soft asylum? I can't make it anymore. The man is at the door. Peppermint mini skirts, chocolate candy, champion socks, and a girl named Sandy. There's only 4 ways to get unraveled. One is to sleep and the other is travel. But one is a bandit up in the hills. One is to love your neighbor till his wife gets home. Catacombs, nursery bones, winter women, growing stones, carrying babies to the river, The horses are